The Abbotsford Canucks used a huge third period to post a 6-1 win over the Charlotte Checkers in Game 3 of the AHL's Calder Cup Final. Abby up 2-1 now. We got lots to talk about. This is Rink Wide. And we welcome you inside the Rink Wide Studios in downtown Vancouver. Needed to be out in the Fraser Valley tonight, or looked like the place to be, I guess, outside of South Florida, where they're celebrating a Stanley Cup. But guess what? The Abbotsford Canucks are 2 wins away now from hoisting the Calder Cup after a convincing 6-1 thrashing of the Charlotte Checkers as the series shifts to the Fraser Valley and Abbotsford protects home ice. And boy, were they good, particularly in the final frame. It was a 1-1 tie going to the third, and 6-1 is the final. You do the math there. All Abbotsford over the final 20 minutes, and the big boys, they came to play. The big dogs were barking out at the Abbey Center tonight. So a great win for the Abbotsford Canucks, and we got lots to talk about here on Rink Wide, which is a presentation of Bet365. And whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the games. Must be 19 or older. I didn't see a blowout happening the way this game unfolded. It took a while for Abby to get on the board. Midway through the second period, tied the game at 1. But after Charlotte opened the scoring, 6 unanswered goals for the Abbotsford Canucks, and they were led by their best players, and that's certainly a welcome sight for Manny Malhotra and the Abbotsford Hockey Club.
Absolutely, especially, in games where you need your big guys to come and show up, and they definitely did. Linus Karlsson, Arshdeep Bains, we'll definitely get into it. Sammy Blais was all over the place in that first period, obviously scoring as well. But the thing I want to get to right away is that Charlotte Checkers team in that third period looked dogged, tired. The travel, the time change. You haven't been out of the time zone in forever. Yeah. Man, and I think the Abbotsford Canucks had a real big advantage there in that third period.
Right. Now, we know that there'll be 3 games, 2 more after this one. You would think that there'll be some acclimation by the Charlotte Checkers the longer they go here. So if there really was an advantage to be had, it was
this one.
Yeah. And I agree with you. Look, these guys don't leave the Eastern time zone very often. They hadn't since late January. They hadn't played a road game since the end of May. Now, that's credit to them because they got 2 in Laval and then came home and they took the other 2. They swept the Laval Rocket to advance to this AHL Championship Series. But, yeah, they had a lot of home cooking for a long time. They had to get on a plane and fly across the continent to a place that they'd never been, a rink they'd never played in, all of that kind of stuff. And you're right, it did look like maybe that played into it the later the series or the later this game went. Now, we'll see if that continues to be the case. But my goodness, what a period to build on if you're the Abbotsford Canucks. We always talk about momentum within series. We'll see if Abby can carry it over. We also always say it doesn't matter if you win 6-1 or 2-1. A win is a win. But there was just a lot to like from the Abbotsford Canucks. And look, I had said this on shows that I had been on. We talked about it post-game the other day after the overtime loss. Like, they almost snuck out of Charlotte with a 2-0 lead. But in many ways, they were fortunate to be in a 1-1 deadlock after the way the games had played and the shot advantage. But one thing this Abbotsford team has earned over the second half of the season is the benefit of the doubt.
Yep.
The opportunity to respond. And way more often than not, that's exactly what they do. And that's exactly what they did in this hockey game. Again, not fazed by giving up the first goal. Oliver Ocular opens the scoring, 8:22 of the first period after a heavy shift by Charlotte. Worked the puck around. There he was at the side of the net, able to tap it home behind Artur Silovs. That was it, though. The Artie party was on from that point forward. His 21st start of these playoffs, and for good measure, picked up an assist as well on a Phil DiGiuseppe goal that really sealed the deal, made it 4-1, and then they added a couple after that. But 4-1, as you like to say,
OVAH, baby.
It was.
That game was
just
over.
like the Stanley Cup Final.
Yeah,
it was
over.
And yeah, Linus Karlsson, who scored the other day on Sunday, but we said really hadn't announced his arrival in the series. Well, he showed up in a huge way. We'll get to the 3 stars a little bit later on, but he'll figure there, and so will Arshdeep Bains. 4-point nights for both of those guys. Carlson now up to 11 goals in the playoffs. That leads all AHL goal scorers, and he's got the outright lead now, and I don't think anybody's going to catch him.
No.
Because there's only two teams that are still playing here. And so Linus Karlsson has taken over solo possession, the top spot in the American Hockey League playoff scoring. And Archdeep Baines got off to a bit of a sluggish start here in the playoffs, but boy, late in the Texas series, and then tack on 4 more points. All of a sudden, he's up to 5 goals now, including the empty netter. He had 2 on the night, 2 in the third period. And Archdeep, who led the Abbotsford Canucks in regular season scoring, is making a hard charge here at the end when you need your best players to step up. So really encouraging sign. Sammy Blais tied the game on a power play midway through the second period. It was 1-1 after 1, and I think you and I were both thinking, are we going to see overtime for a third straight game? We've kind of become accustomed to the Abbotsford Canucks needing extra time, but no, they took matters into their own hands. Linus Karlsson at the side of the net takes a nifty feed for Max Sasson after a great play by Archdeep Baines from the seat of his pants, able to win a puck battle along the boards. 3:58. The Canucks had their first lead of the night. First lead since the early stages of the first period on Friday in game 1, in fact. So they hadn't led a lot, but they did lead a lot in this hockey game, certainly over the balance of the third period. Karlsson and then Baines. Puck deflected in off a defenseman. Archdeep trying to find Karlsson at the back door. But it deflected in off the defenseman Carrick and into the net. That made it 3-1. Another power play goal. Abbotsford goes 2 for 2 on the power play in this hockey game. Now 5 for 12 in this series. So, my goodness, almost 50% on the power play through the first 3 games here. And as they've done through most of the playoffs, although not in game 2, terrific on the penalty kill. 1 successful kill in each of the 3 periods. So Charlotte goes 0 for 3 on the night with the man advantage. And the Baines goal in the power play, the second power play goal. Then it was Di Giuseppe, the quick up from Silavs and Phil, his 6th of the playoffs, as he snapped one home on the short side, beating Capo Kakinen off the rush there. Then Baines into the empty net, and for good measure, Tristan Nielsen on a breakaway between the legs, backhand move, 5th of the year, 5th of the playoffs for Nielsen. Add it all up. There you go. That's 6 goals for Abbotsford and a 2-1 series lead. 7,052 on hand. So they crest the 7,000 mark, and they're going to shoehorn more in if they can for game 4 coming up on Thursday night. And we do know that game 5 is going to be required. And again, see what happens Thursday, but game 5 could have some heft to it if Abby can get a result on Thursday to move 1 win closer to the Calder Cup Championship. And, another encouraging sign here, they had 13 shots on goal the whole game on Sunday. They had 14 in the third period alone. Shots were even at 29 apiece. Did a much better job tonight of testing Capo Kakinen.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, what you said, was right off the top there, and they've earned the benefit of the doubt. Well-coached teams, whether it's in the NHL, the NHL, AHL, wherever you are, if you're well-coached and you have a good system, you have good structure, you have good people around you, you earn that right to not write them off after just a loss. And it was an OT loss too, as well. So for the Abbotsford Canucks, I mean, you knew they were going to be able to feed off the fans on the home ice. They came out flying. They weren't lucky in the first period, as Oliver Ocular scored, as you mentioned. But then after that, right, that second period, Sammy Blais was all over the place, not just on the score sheet.
Yeah.
He was hitting everything that moved. And then in the third period, like I mentioned, maybe it was fatigue, but the Abbotsford Canucks went for the jugular, and they absolutely took it to Charlotte. And I really like the fact that, the power play clicked. I really like the 2 power play goals in the hockey game. Just another level of, them being able to produce. And that gives him another advantage there. And then for Archdeep Baines, like I mentioned, and you just said, he was obviously snake bitten the first 16 games of the playoffs. He's now second in scoring in the Calder Cup playoffs behind Linus Karlsson. He's got 19 points. Linus Karlsson with 22. It's funny, like nobody's even close on Charlotte. John Leonard has 11 points. That is the closest player.
He scored the other day, but otherwise, through 3 games, Abbotsford's done a really good job on John Leonard, keeping him in check. Will Lockwood, a lot of hype, and obviously with a recognizable name, but Will Lockwood, I don't think has a point in this series, if I'm not mistaken. And Justin Sordoff, who I thought skated miles in the series opener, Noticed him a fair bit again in this hockey game. A Surrey guy, former Vancouver Giant, coming home. You knew he'd be amped, but you look on the score sheet, he's not there in this hockey game. So best players on Abbotsford show up in a big way, announce their arrival, and Abbotsford does a really nice job defensively. We'll see if we can get any sort of update. Guillaume Brisebois didn't play much of the third period, so they were down to 5 defensemen. But again, credit to those 5D in front of Artur Silovs. And again, it's just a team effort. And once they got rolling, look out. That looked like a team very capable of getting the job done here in this championship series. We tell you all the time about super chats, and yes, of course, Hugo Mugo has weighed in, and we'll get to his super chat. We'd love to hear a few others and see a few others make a donation to the BC Mental Health Foundation. They've been our charity partner all season long, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. The way the Abbotsford Canucks played tonight, they're worth a donation to a worthy cause. So hoping people will step up with a super chat in the live YouTube chat there, which is, for the most part, staying on track. I think there was some Stanley Cup Final discussion going on there, but it looks as I dip in, most people weighing in on the Abbotsford Canucks and their 6-1 win tonight over the Charlotte Checkers. So 2-1 Abby in this series. And again, we mention it all the time, and we will continue. And even if it changes, we'll mention it as well. Abbotsford still has not trailed. They've played 21 games in the playoffs. They have never been behind. And just think about what luxury that is, because you get to this stage of, like, now there's significant pressure on the Charlotte Checkers. Yep. If they don't get the job done on Thursday, they face elimination. And if they're facing elimination on Saturday, it means that Abbotsford has taken care of business at home in back-to-back games, and they'd be looking to do it 3 straight, and that would be it for this series. So, yeah, I mean, that's just a pressure that Abbotsford hasn't had to face at any point. They faced elimination in the first series against Tucson and against Colorado, but they haven't been down and trailing at any point, which is pretty remarkable in 5 rounds of playoff hockey, 21 games in, and they just continue to find ways to respond after poor performances. And not that it was a poor performance. I mean, yeah, they got outshot, and Charlotte carried the play on Sunday. They got to overtime. They had a power play in overtime. They had their opportunities.
That's the thing. We couldn't really write the Abbotsford Canucks off after 2 games. They're both overtime. One was an overtime win, and the other one was an overtime loss.
Yep.
They played well enough to get there. It's when you looked at the stat sheet, it's like, okay, you got there with only 13 shots. And I think that was the part where we looked at it and said, this team has to be better. And obviously they were here tonight.
Wolfgang in the chat says, going to be there live on Saturday, baby. The building will be rocking. Yeah, it's become a hot ticket, obviously. It's great to see. And the towels waving. People were into it. And again, the home team gave them something to cheer about, gave them a lot to cheer about in the third period. But the crowd played a role. They were into this game early. And not that Abbotsford came out and absolutely dictated, but I liked the start to this game. And yes, Charlotte opened the scoring 8 minutes in, but I would say the first 5 minutes was fairly back and forth. Jet Wu hit the crossbar off the rush, jumped up into the rush, and a wicked backhand that fooled Kakinen, I think, a little bit. Whatever the case, Wu got all iron there. He thought he had scored or raised his hands, but puck clearly stayed out. But I just thought for the first 5 minutes, where we've done a lot of these in the postgame and the playoffs, and we've talked about the fact that it's taken Abbotsford a little longer than he'd like to get into the game. That was not the case. I thought they understood the assignment here, coming back home, trying to feed off the crowd, did a pretty decent job of that. And even though they gave up one, shrugged it off and just continued to play. Jonathan Lekarmaki got back into the lineup. Not surprised about that. We talked about a lack of shots, and you got a shooter that's sitting. His best chance came in the first period, right after Charlotte had scored, came in on the right side, held on to the puck. Got a pretty decent look, snapshot off right wing, and then he stayed with it and got a second shot, I think, although when I checked earlier, they only had him credited with 1 shot in the hockey game. I thought he had 2 in the same sequence. When I look at the final box score here, I've got Lekarmaki with 1 shot. But there were moments, and I noticed him. It wasn't a dominant performance. They didn't need that from him, but I thought, look, it's hard to throw darts at anybody that was wearing green in this one. It was a team effort, and I thought Lekarmaki did his part.
And I think putting him in a position to succeed, right? You played with the guys that are good on the puck, guys that can go and take care and are very responsible. So you have let him be able to go out and do his thing, which is try and provide some offense. Now, only credited with one shot, but I didn't think he looked out of place.
No.
I didn't think he was a guy that looked like he was lacking confidence, like we did talk about in some games. It did look like that in certain series here. So in this one, credit for Manny to putting him in at home as well. So you have control of the line changes and things like that. But for him, go in, your team smokes the other team. So now you feel even better about your game. You're out there and you're not contributing to the score sheet, but you're contributing to a win. I think that can help him build some confidence for Thursday.
Without a doubt. And, just looking at, I see Manny Malhotra quoted about the home fans. We're privileged to play in front of fans like this. Again, it's 7,000. It's not 17,000, but that's capacity in that building. It's a terrific minor hockey facility, minor league hockey, and it's great to see the support. And it's been there for the most part throughout the playoffs. Some of the weeknight games, not so much, but you knew when they got to the final, this is it, that the city of Abbotsford, the region, would step up, and it did. And I would just think that, that's something to build on. And Thursday will be every bit the atmosphere, the environment that this one was, and it'll only grow, certainly the further they go. We know that there's going to be 2 more home games for Abbotsford. It's a question of where does the series go beyond Saturday. The Abbotsford Canucks hope it doesn't go anywhere beyond Saturday. Charlotte will now have a chance to respond on Thursday, but as we said, there's a little bit of heat now on this Charlotte team as the visitors to respond and be a whole lot better than they were in this one. We had the Hugo Mugo with the super chat. Edmonton loses, Canucks win big. Thanks for the show. Canucks fan 95 says if Abbotsford wins the Calder Cup, Vancouver Canuck fans all over the Lower Mainland will flood to Abbotsford for the parade. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here. I don't know what the celebration ultimately would be, if there would be a parade, or would it just sort of be a gathering in the parking lot
and go to the Abbotsford Cactus.
Exactly. Who knows? But look, it's been a tight series for the most part. I'm not counting Charlotte out at this point, so let's not worry about when and where and how the Abbotsford Canucks are going to celebrate. They got to get this thing done, but they're halfway there in this series, up 2-1.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is it's a very good news story for our organization, especially right now where there's just a lot of stuff going on when it comes to the big club. Right? Yep. You talk about the players and you talk about organization, you talk about whatever that's going on. This Abbotsford Canucks team is doing something that gives that organization hope. A lot of these players are trying or will be trying to be on the roster next season. A guy like Linus Karlsson, that spot is now being circled, was first in pencil. Now it's going to be in pen. If he keeps this up for the next couple of games, it might be in Sharpie to be on to be on the team when when next season gets underway. A guy like Arshdeep Bain's got 1 more year left on his contract, right? He's a guy that is looking to get a payday, right? Or at least, get another contract where he can continue his professional career. So guys like that, Jonathan Lecker-Mackey, you want to see the development of him. And, we talked about him not playing in games and Manny Malhotra picking when he wants to insert him into the lineup. Well, now he's in. Now they've won a game, so you can build some confidence that way. Artur Shilov's, 21 straight starts now?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So there's going to be a lot of talk about him. There has been already in this market, but these are good news stories for this organization. And it's something that, the fans in Abbotsford and in the Fraser Valley, and especially here, if you're just coming on and just starting to watch this team, you should definitely, pay more attention to them.
Our Tyson Cole, who sat in
Nice.
while I was away, out covering Game 3 in Abbotsford, and I see he's got another quote here from Manny Malhotra post-game, who said, I think it was more about our overall game in terms of our ability to apply pressure. We started far better, spent a lot more time in their zone. Our overall effort of our group tonight was far better than we saw in the first 2. I would agree with that. I think start to finish, in terms of complete game, we talked a little bit about the start, and then we said, special teams wins another game for the Abbotsford Canucks, and that's been a huge part of their story, not just in this series, but really through the playoffs. Maybe Game 2 was a blip when they gave up the 2 power play goals, but they run away and hide from Charlotte on the special teams front. And this one, 2 for 2 on the power play and 0 for 3 were the Checkers with the man advantage. All right, I want to get to the 3 stars. Clean sweep, as you can imagine, for the Abbotsford Canucks. It was a question of who was going to get left out because there were lots of options here, but three guys ultimately separated themselves. 3 stars are brought to you by Greta Bar YVR. And we tell you every episode what a great place Greta is to watch sports on all the big screens. They want you to know that they're big on team building and summer social events. So if you're looking to get your group out of the office for some corporate fun, or you're looking for a place for your ball club to gather, maybe a fundraiser, who knows, consider Greta for all the arcade games, the street food menu, weekly drink specials. Greta Bar, the place to be, 50 West Cordova. Greta Bar, let the games begin. All right, 3 stars in the building. Archie Baines, 2 goals, 2 assists. Linus Karlsson, a goal and 3 helpers. And Artur Silovs with the win, the assist, and coming up with some key saves again as the Canucks' best penalty killer. Slightly different here on Rink Wide. We flipped the first 2 stars. Linus Karlsson gets the game winner and, again, propels himself to the top of the AHL scoring parade. So, because of that, we elected to put Linus Karlsson, star number 1, but there's Archie Baines right there. If they really first stars in this hockey game, perhaps, but Archie will settle, I'm sure, for a second star and the victory, and Artie gets the third star honors there. So there you go. Those are the 3 stars. We're going to hear from Manny Malhotra. In fact, we read a couple of quotes, but we're going to hear from Manny in his own words, get a little post-game video out of the Abbey Center. And again, the 3 stars brought to you by Greta. Honorable mention, you can go down the list here. I thought Phil Giuseppe, it was a big goal, obviously, to put the dagger in, but used his size effectively. He's part of that penalty kill that was perfect on the night. Veteran presence there. A guy who's been there and done that and been through these types of battles before. I thought Nate Smith skated miles in this hockey game. Noticed him an awful lot. And as we said, you could go right down the roster. Victor Mancini looked more like the Victor Mancini we've seen earlier in the playoffs. Some poise, breaking pucks out with relative ease throughout the hockey game. Akito Hirose, on and on it goes. Again, it was a really good effort by the Abbotsford Canucks, and so full credit to them. As far as the stat that stands out, and we always get to a stat that stands out, we wanted to tie this one in a little bit with what happened elsewhere in the hockey world. So the stat that stands out is a presentation of the Vancouver Canadians. Charlotte, now down 2-1 in the series, trying to become the first AHL team in 30 years to win the Calder Cup in the same year their NHL team won the Stanley Cup. Yes, this is the Florida Panthers, top American Hockey League affiliate, and the Panthers are champs. Once again, a convincing victory. Sam Reinhart going to town on the Edmonton Oilers. Was it 5-1? Was that the final score?
Yeah.
Lost count there as Sam was just piling them up in the third period. Vasily Podkolzin, the only goal, breaking Sergei Bobrovsky's shutout. I think Bob will be okay there. Back-to-back Stanley Cups for him and the Florida Panthers. And as you can see in small print on the live stream, the New Jersey Devils back in that lockout-shortened season of 1995, and the Albany River Rats, they, parent club and farm affiliate, were champions in the same year. So Charlotte's not out of this, as we said, but they got their work cut out for them. But that's definitely a stat that stands out. So congratulations to the Florida Panthers as they back up their Stanley Cup championship from a year ago with another one. And the stat that stands out, brought to you by the Vancouver Canadians. They're out on the road all week, but they'll be back at the net soon. And their next homestand starts on Tuesday, June 24th against Tri-City. That run of home games includes another fireworks night on the 26th and a Marvel Superhero Day at the ballpark on the 28th. So sounds like some fun. For the full game schedule, promo schedule, and for tickets, check out CanadiansBaseball.com. Artur Silovs, I just want to talk about him a little bit more. That's an incredible workload that, he was pulled briefly in the second round against Coachella Valley, and they lost in overtime that night. So that defeat went on Tolopilo's record. Otherwise, it has been all Artur Silovs through these playoffs. And I wondered a little bit about fatigue for him and the team a little bit. They'd played a lot of hockey, but boy, they were energized in this one. And he was too. It wasn't forced to make the miraculous saves that we've seen him in some other games here, but he was called upon. There were opportunities here, and in fact, in a 1-1 game, Ocular, who had already scored, he had all day on the power play and rang one off the crossbar. So you're looking for turning points, perhaps right then and there. There was also that weird sequence in the second period where the puck wound up in the crease and Silovs kind of, I don't know if he knew it. Like, talk about a grenade that's, loose puck in blue paint, and it was a close call. The puck ended up going out the other side and out of harm's way. So not a big deal as it turned out, but I just thought this was a really solid performance from Artur Silovs, and the crowd loves chanting his name after all those saves, and why not? Again, they'll pick an MVP for these playoffs, I would have to think, even though Linus Karlsson's had an amazing run. So much of this playoff run has been on the back of Artur Silovs. I would think if we're handicapping the playoff MVP race right now, if I had a vote, and I don't, but I would have to think that Artur Silovs is the considerable favorite.
Well, 100%. He's got to be in 21 straight games, right? And I think the way that he's been in that, and he hasn't really gotten blown out in games. He hasn't been a guy that has been giving up really bad goals, and when he does give up goals that he doesn't like, usually bounces back pretty good. They needed him tonight when, like you mentioned, maybe the chances weren't as high danger or they weren't as great as they have been in the past, but he was called upon. He made the saves when he needed to, and he gave his team a chance to win. Right after that 1-0, he dialed it in, and I think that was the most important part.
Yeah, and I mean, look, both these goaltenders, these tight games they've been in, they've both been terrific for their respective teams. But this is remarkable, and this could have been a stat that stands out as well, that up until game 1, when Danila Klimovic scored in double overtime, that was the first time in these playoffs that Kaapo Kähkönen and the Charlotte Checkers had given up 4 goals in a game. They gave up 5 in the third period alone, and in 2 of the 3 games, Abbotsford has now scored 4 or more against a team that was basically airtight and giving up next to nothing. So that's an encouraging sign, too, for the Abbotsford Canucks, is that they've been able to chip away, and they've been able to break down this Charlotte team a little bit. A lot of it in the power play, as we said, 5 power play goals through 3 games. But, there were a lot of penalties, a lot of offsetting penalties, and some misconducts. We saw a little bit of heat in the third period. But it wasn't the parade of the penalty box in terms of power play opportunities that we saw in the 2 games in Charlotte, where each team had 10 power play opportunities. Here tonight, Abbotsford had 2 and Charlotte had 3. So
Abby cashed in.
More 5-on-5. But even if it's 2 power plays and Abbotsford scores on both of them, like, that's got to be a message to Charlotte that they, you're playing with fire. If you put Abbotsford on the power play the way that they're going here in the playoffs, that's just something that Charlotte probably doesn't want to do, and yet it's pretty hard to play a perfectly disciplined game and keep a team off the power play entirely. And so Abbotsford did the most it could with its 2 opportunities, 2 for 2 on the night, 5 for 12 now here in the playoffs. All right, let's hear from Manny Malhotra. I'm curious to get the post-game thoughts of the Abbotsford Canucks head coach, his team, a 6-1 winner tonight to take a 2-1 lead in this best-of-7 AHL final.
Questions? All right. Manny, we could start with just the power play. Your thoughts on the performance from the group tonight? Felt like it was clicking for you tonight.
Yeah, give them a lot of credit for responding the right way. Weren't overly happy with the performance last game. They obviously had come at us with a ton of pressure, but did a good job of executing when the opportunities were there, and obviously timely goals for us put us in a good spot.
What did you think about Linus, the way he's played throughout these playoffs, where he scores his 12th? I think it changed to the 11th for him, but just him throughout these playoffs with these big goals for this group.
I think the thing that stands out for me with Carly is his consistency, and we've talked about all players have their ups and downs, and with him, there's no real peaks or valleys. He has his good and his bad days, but his ability to stay really consistent and focus on his game is what's led him to this success this year.
And I know you talked about it a lot, but what this building means, was it a little different tonight? Was it another level as you guys continue to go on here?
I can't say enough about our crowd. They continue to amaze us. Can't talk enough about how much energy the guys feed off of from this building. It's electrifying. It's a great atmosphere for hockey, and we're privileged to play in front of fans like this.
Your team was outshot by 53 after game 2. What was different about your team defense tonight that was able to help minimize the shots?
I think it was more about our overall game in terms of our ability to apply pressure. We started far better, spent a lot more time in their zone, which obviously means we're spending less time in our zone. But just the overall effort of our group tonight was far better than we saw in the first 2 games.
Archie Seeloff's, he's used to stopping pucks, not getting primary assists like he did. He's really doing it all right now for you guys, isn't he?
He's feeling good. He's feeling good, and the thing that I continue to say about Artie is it's nice to see him being rewarded for doing it the right way. He is a consummate professional. This guy grinds every day when he comes to the rink, and he works and he puts the work in. So there's no real surprise to me that he's having the success that he is.
What do you think of Sammy Blaze's game today? And, do you think he plays disciplined enough for you? Where's that line with him for you?
Sammy did a great job tonight. He played his normal game. He was physical. He created offense for us, held on to pucks. So a typical Sammy Blais playoff style hockey game. Obviously the tempers will continue to escalate as these games go on. The animosity grows, as you'd expect in playoff hockey, but he did a great job for us tonight.
There you go. Manny Malhotra praising Sammy Blais at the end, but obviously high praise for all of his players. And we read the quote earlier, but just hearing him talk about it there. Pleased with the team effort from the start, and did a lot better job, obviously, of limiting Charlotte and all of those shot totals, the 54, including double overtime the other night, but 42 on Sunday, held them under 30. The shots were even at 29 apiece. So Manny's a pretty even keel guy. You couldn't tell that his team had just romped to a 6-1 victory, but I think deep down, just reading between the lines there, you can tell he's pretty proud of his guys.
Oh, absolutely. Manny needs to go into his former head coach's closet and find a lozenge. losing his voice, man. He needs to go to AV's secret stash there.
Maybe some screaming on the weekend. I don't know that he had to scream too much at his guys in this one. The coach's comments, by the way, a presentation of the Pacific Toyota dealers, and they want to tell you about the Toyota BZ4X. It's 100% electric. It's backed by the peace of mind of knowing it's a Toyota, and that spark of joy you get when you pass a gas station knowing that you don't have to stop. There's the added perk of being able to access HOV lanes when you're driving an EV, even when you're alone in the vehicle. It's got all that cargo capacity. It can handle any terrain, so it can take you from the city to the slopes or the mountain bike trails, wherever your life takes you. And when you choose the BZ4X, you can get a $5,000 incentive. And right now, you can finance the 2025 BZ4X LE all-wheel drive from 0.99% APR for 36 months. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific dealer, Toyota dealer today. All right, so not a lot of practices at this time of the year. Teams have played a lot of hockey. Charlotte's traveled a lot. I'm not saying they won't be on the ice, but I would think if there's anybody that's on the ice tomorrow, it'll be a pretty brief twirl, and then they get back at it on Thursday. And this series goes every other day. Even if it goes back to Charlotte, they play Saturday night in Abbotsford and would play Monday in Charlotte. So not like the Stanley Cup Final that seemed to go into hiding for long stretches there. But the Stanley Cup Final is done. This is the only hockey around now.
Oh, I mean, it should be over.
It is wild.
It should be over.
And it could go until the 25th of June if it goes the distance. But Abbotsford has other designs. They don't want it to go 7 or even 6. They would like to wrap this thing up on home ice. They are 2 wins away, as we said. Got another super chat. And
nice.
So, I want to thank Susie for her contribution here to the BC Mental Health Foundation. She just says, for all the stats, much respect. I don't know if she's talking about the stat that stands out or just all the numbers that we throw around here on a nightly basis. We had another super chat, and I want to thank you for the contribution. It was Canucks Fan 94 once again, but he's talking about the big league Canucks, and we're not going down that road here. This is a focus of ours in the playoffs to keep the conversation, for the most part, to the Abbotsford Canucks. There'll be plenty of time in the days ahead here and weeks ahead to talk about the Canucks, Vancouver Canucks in the offseason. So, again, we thank you for the contribution, but we're not getting into signings and trades at the NHL level, not on this program. We talked about Guillaume Brisebois didn't play. There was no update from Manny Malholtz there, so we'll have to probably wait until Thursday's warm-up to see if there is a change required.
Yeah.
Cole McWard is a healthy body that is on the sidelines watching. That's got to be difficult for him, but really, when you look at the 6 defensemen that they've rolled with for the most part here in these playoffs, it's a tough roster to crack. I mean, that's a great problem to have if you're the coaching staff, but it's got to be difficult for a guy like Cole McWard, who was a big part of what Abbotsford did all regular season. But Manny's got to lean on the guys that he thinks give him the best chance to win hockey games right now. And it's not a popularity contest. It's not about fairness. It's about trying to grind out 2 more victories.
Well, and go back to the point that we make about Jonathan Lecker-Mackey when he wasn't playing. It's because he wasn't giving them a best chance to win. And, Manny's 2 wins away from, hoisting a Calder Cup trophy. So I think that Manny knows what he's doing. We'll see what happens with Brisebois. I mean, if they do skate, or let's see if he is a guy that, is around doing some stuff tomorrow. But another thing, Jeff, I wanted to get into, we always chart high danger chances and things like that on when we talk about the Vancouver Canucks. In this hockey game, when you look at it, other than the empty net goal, looking at where Abbotsford scored from, they're all in that quote unquote high danger area. And I think that that's the thing when you look at this team and the way that they're generating, it's in tight, the in tight goals. The power play goals were both basically backdoor tap ins. And I think that that's an important thing where it's not just goals that are coming from everywhere. It's where you want to be in the quote unquote goal scorers goals.
Yeah. In fact, I tweeted out a screen grab of the little goal graphic that the AHL website has. And there were 3 goals that were stacked on top of each other, all off to the left side of Kaapo Kähkönen. And you just wonder, does Abby, have they seen something now through 3 games that allows them? And that's where Karlsson likes to set up on the power play. And that Baines pass was intended for him, but it deflected in off the defenseman. But, I don't think that's a coincidence that there are 3 of the early goals all sort of scored from the same spot on the ice. There was a question that came in, not a super chat. Raj, next time, make a donation. Come on, buck up. But Raj is asking, can Florida send players down for game 4? Now, this is when you got 2 teams, dueling teams that are going to league championships. Like normally your NHL team would have this massive staff of black aces, but that isn't the case. I'd have to go and look. I mean, they would have had to have been papered down at the deadline. So I know that Texas got Alex Petrovic midway through that last round. I can't imagine that the Florida Panthers, after winning the Stanley Cup, would tell anybody that, hey,
at least not anybody playing,
you got to get on a flight. Yeah. Alex, like Sasha Barkov's not coming. So I'm going to say no, but I'm not 100% certain of that. But just geographically, and given the fact that the Florida Panthers are going to have a parade here before too long, I think guys have earned the opportunity to stay up with the big club. And so
they've got who are scratched today? Jacob Magna, Nico Sturm, Mackenzie Samoskevich, Jesper Bovquist, and Uves Balinskis.
Yeah, and the only guy there I think that might have possibly been papered down
would be Magna Samoskevich, yeah.
But I mean, he played the most of the year, if not all the year, in the National Hockey League. I don't think they're getting an airlift at this stage, and certainly not for the games in Abbotsford. I mean, if there was some way to make it happen when they got back, if they get back to Charlotte, but I don't think that's happening. Domaniac Studios. Long time no see. Got tickets for game 5 and am stoked, as you should be. And so should anybody that's got a ticket to game 4. One thing we haven't really talked about here, and we've talked about the atmosphere and everything else, the team has fed off the crowd. Crowd plays a role. Abby's 9-2 on home ice in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Not unbeatable, but pretty damn impressive there. And, by the way, this was Charlotte's first road loss of the playoffs. So when we talked about Abbotsford doing things to Charlotte that no other team had done, Charlotte hadn't lost on the road in these playoffs yet, but they have now. They're 5-1 away from home, and this was, again, their first road game since the final week of May. So it had been a while since they'd had to break out the road uniforms, and got to think they can be better. Question is, will they be better when this series resumes on Thursday night. Edward says, what a night for Vancouver hockey fans tonight. I suppose if you mean the Edmonton Oilers lost and the Abbotsford Canucks won, it's also a pretty good night for soccer fans in town with Canada doing a number on Honduras. We were sort of watching that as we had eyes on a couple of things going on. It turned out to be a pretty busy night in the world of sports. And if you were one that was hoping for the Florida Panthers and you were pulling for Canada's national soccer side and, of course, the Abbotsford Canucks, then 3 check marks for you. That's the way things broke down. And as we said, Stanley Cup Final's over. The NHL season is done. The draft is next week. And yet the Abbotsford Canucks and the Charlotte Checkers will play on with Game 4 on Thursday night. That's a 7 o'clock face-off. And then Game 5, which we know is needed, it goes at 6 o'clock on Saturday. So those are the start times, 7 on Thursday, 6 o'clock on Saturday. Heck of a night. And a lot of you still weighing in the live chat. So, hey, we appreciate all the support. It's been fun to see people gather after each and every one of these Abbotsford games throughout the playoffs. The live chat has been one of the places to be, and we thank you for joining us after each and every Abbotsford game here throughout the postseason. We know that there's going to be 2 more. If all goes well, that's all there will be.
Yeah.
And we'll call it a season then. But we'll work with the material they provide. And if it goes beyond the 5th game, you know that you can count on us to continue to deliver. And we should mention that Dave Hall will be back. He just was unable to join us this evening, but we know that he was watching. And Cody Severson stepping in, by the way, pinch hitting on the Farmies. So you can check those out and get Cody's perspective on what he saw in Game 3 at Canucks Army. And I'm sure there'll be all sorts of Abbotsford content in the days ahead at Canucks Army. So make sure you're looking for all of that. Jacob Lazar, our trusty technical producer, he's here riding shotgun with us once again. We thank him for his help. But closing thoughts on a very good night for the Abbotsford Canucks.
Charlotte isn't just going to roll over and die.
No.
I mean, like, they're a reason why they're there, and there's a reason why they had a week off in between games. Like, they smoked their opponents leading up to the Calder Cup Final. So as much as we say the Abbotsford Canucks earn respect of, they can have bounce back games, I mean, the Charlotte Checkers are a really good hockey team. So you're going to expect that their best next game for Abbotsford. But all in all, professional. That was a professional hockey game from that team, going down 1-0, locking it down, and absolutely smoking them in the 3rd period.
Yeah, fun to watch, and I'm sure it was fun to be there. Again, if you got tickets for Thursday night, enjoy. And then, hey, when the game is done, make sure that you're back here. This is the place to be post-game. We've been here throughout the playoffs, and we're going to continue full speed ahead until this Calder Cup series is done. So for Jacob behind the scenes and for Irf, I'm Jeff. Thanks so much for checking out the latest edition of Rink Wide.